Welcome to Talking in Stations. I am Matterall here with Ash Dorathy. How you doing, Ash?
Greetings, fellow Imperians. I am Ashrothi, and I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Really good. We also have Gregorian here. How you doing, Gregorian?
I'm doing all right. Good evening.
All right. Let's go through some headlines, then we'll catch up with Ash Dorathy and get to some of the in-depth news reporting. But first, let's do these headlines. Okay, in the war zone, Pappy killed a new faction Fortizar in period basis. I believe that's the third one in as many days. The big news in the area of Delve is the Moreau faction Fortizar, which, if you remember, faction Fortizars were the old NPC stations put in by CCP back when stations were first introduced to the game. That station that was in NOL, NOL, Delve, was picked up and taken away by Goonswarm. So all that history went along with it. The Moreau faction Fortizar in NOL has been taken down or decommissioned. There's about 4 or 5 more battles happening in the next few hours in Delve, so it is definitely a busy, busy war zone. Okay, also we have, well, actually, Ash, why don't you introduce these stories up here? What's going on?
Sure. I've got a couple of just little things that have come out today. First of all, CCP announced that CCP retweeted, I guess, rebroadcasted. Mixed Dimensions announced that they have released another line of their ship models. So for the last couple of years now, CCP has been working with Mixed Dimension to create these really nice 3D models of various different ship lines. There's the Tristan and the Magnate and the Oracle and the Mercurial from before, but now there's the 4 battleships are now available, which would be the Armageddon, Hyperion, Scorpion, and Typhoon. So one for each of the 4 races. One of the things that somebody mentioned was that they would really like it to be what is the thing, the Scorpion? Rattlesnake. But interestingly enough, while there is a drop-down menu for like being able to pick out different color schemes, there seems to only be the one color scheme for these. So maybe that's something that they could expand to later. But these things are pretty reasonably priced. I think you have one, don't you?
Yeah, but we'll check those out when we go into the news. Right now we're doing the
Excellent.
headlines. Yeah, so
Good.
just go
That's a
through
good point. So moving on. Then next, tomorrow's downtime is going to be extended. There was a downtime last week that was going to be extended. It didn't happen, so now it is happening this week for database upgrades. And also, we got a confirmation from HoboLeaks this week of some of the details of the upcoming event that is happening in February, the Guardian Gala event. And then finally, in kind of relation to what's going on, there was some questions, and in fact, there's even a question on Reddit today about what quadrant we were in. I tweeted this last week because, obviously last year was broken into 4 3-week quadrants. I know how quadrants work. And then the question was, if this is a new year, what quadrant would we be in? And we got a confirmation from CSP Convict that while we will be doing quadrants, this is kind of like the middle time because it's January, and so nothing really happened in December because everybody was on Christmas. And so we will be hearing more about what's coming, hopefully, in the next couple of weeks as we now enter into February.
All right. Those are your top stories today, and we'll look into those after this. And this is probably when we will take a little bit of a commercial break in the future. once we get that all sorted out.
All Professionalism.
All right. Thanks for watching Talking in Stations. Let's go to our top stories real quick. Are the NOL Fortizar that was taken out by Goonswarm. For those that don't know, NOL is a really key system. I think it would probably help if I brought up visuals for this. So let me actually bring up. I should have done this through the. When we were
so while you're doing that, I have a question because you're referring to the historical nature of these structures, and So each one of these structures were manufactured by players at different times when the deployment of outposts were available, and then they were transferred into faction fortizars in one day during this big rush a couple of years ago. But some of them were more storied than others. And also, if they were left in place, they had these powerful rig bonuses. So while a lot of these faction fortizars got ripped up and therefore lost those rig bonuses, the faction fortizars that remained in place remained significantly stronger and more useful to their members. So the question I have is that which one of those types of fortizars was this? Was this one of the ones that had been anchored later? Was it one of the original ones, or was it one of the historical ones?
It was one of the historical ones, which are the original ones.
Right. So
yes.
that still had all of its rigs. It was super powerful. It was better than any of the faction fortizars that you can get now, because you can't get those rigs any other way anymore.
Correct. Well, the each of the NPC stations, whether they were an outpost or an NPC station, had rigs.
These are the NPC station. Okay, so these are the originally conquerable but not player built ones. Yeah, so these are they were the historical ones that were different. So there's the ones that were built, but then there's this small collection that were the ones that were originally put in there in like the very, very early days that were put in by CCP for players to fight over. And so this is one of those. Wow, yes. that is truly historical.
I think there was originally like 72, I want to
68.
say 68, thank you. Now there are only 60 since 8 of them have been blown up. They're Moreau Fortizars. That's what they're called now.
And on yesterday's show, Sully said he owns 2 of them.
That's right. Well, I think it turned out he owned one. He misplaced another one. But these things...
Imagine being rich enough that you can lose one of those.
Well, if they get torn up, then they lose their rigs. They're super valuable if they're in position.
Yeah. There's supposed to be a plaque that goes with these to kind of mark the historic nature of it. I'm not sure those plaques ever got made, like a little bit of a in-game memorial to these things. Now, what these represent, these 68 stations, were the very, very beginning of EVE Online. Maybe a few months later, they put these stations in, CCP did. So these are the NPC ones that were put in by the company, and you could go there and live in those stations and conquer it and own it. And if somebody came and conquered that station away from you, the station survived. It just changed ownership. So that's how SOB worked for a long time. Now we blow up stations and there really is no trading stations anymore. But a long time ago, that's how it worked.
Villy points out that now there are less than 10 of those original ones with their rigs left, and that there is actually like a signature anomaly that's about 2,000 kilometers off of each of those where those fortizars is/were.
Oh, okay. So there is some kind of a marker to show that it existed. Well, NOL specifically is one of those really popular ones, because among all those NPC stations that were put down a long time ago, there were a few that were key systems, because they were the keys to conquerable, or I guess they were key stations to conquerable areas that were popular, and Delve was popular when it first came out. So NOL represents, I believe, the home of Band of Brothers, which were one of the early groups to dominate EVE Online's nullsec, or at least the imagination of EVE Online's nullsec.
Right.
And they lived here for Delve 1 and Delve 2 campaigns. So this was really their historic home for a long time. When you think of old Delve, NOL was the system. That was like the key system. And this station was the key to that system.
In a world in which POSs were just totally unmanageable for large-scale operations, citadels and other upwell structures did not exist, and outposts were a huge investment to put in just to potentially be taken by your opponent. These key beachheads function, or like these staging areas function as critical locations to be taken and to use as launching points for massive campaigns. So the ghost of a trillion dead.
Yeah, and also this is how you controlled space. Even before the initial SOV came in, I think that you really didn't control space. You just kind of lived in one of these stations and dominated the area. And this is really what I think the CEO of CCP, Hilmar, would like to get back to. He says there's a natural order to the universe. If you can dominate, you dominate. There's not all these weird mechanics to protect the smaller and weaker or whatever else. And I think the game is trying to claw its way back to this era of gate camps. If if you could lock up a gate and nobody could get through, then nobody could get through. That kind of stuff. He says there are some things that are incongruous with the way EVE is right now, like asset safety or even some aspects of SOV.
Well, yeah, in a lot of ways. So the idea is that these are immersion breaking concepts, and when I say immersion breaking, I don't mean it necessarily from a lore point of view, but I just mean that the universe is consistent with itself, right? Like asset safety is one of those things that truly exists only as an in-game concept, as a gamey concept. It exists only because of game-driven demands. There's no realistic excuse for it or explanation for it that really works or makes sense. It doesn't, like Intosis is another really good example that he brought up, where it's like these things, they don't fit. They're not what is the word? Diegetic. They're not diegetic in the world. They don't have a place, and therefore they have a tendency to not just strain on the lore, but also strain on the game mechanics itself, since the game mechanics are designed to kind of not only replicate but simulate real conditions.
Yeah. And he made this, I think, during the fireside chat in December. I think they were having a discussion there. That's when that came up. But NOL, again, is a historic system, and it is no longer, the station is no longer there. So that is.
So what does this mean now? What does this mean for what's happening now? Is this a huge loss? Is this represent a critical move for either side? Is this just the continuing dominoes falling? What does this represent?
It's hard to say what this represents because a lot of its context is no longer important. But basically, you have these very historic systems, and you want to preserve the Fortizar in place as long as you can. So this is a sign that is no longer a tolerable thing because they are being invaded. So instead of just losing it, they'll pick it up and take it with them, and that will destroy the rig inside, which is part of the main value of having these things. It's what makes them extra special or extra powerful. So they will take a sacrifice, but at least they keep it, and they don't leave it out to be destroyed by Pappy, who seems to be just ravaging the area right now. So it tells you something about the nature of the war right now. It feels like there's a ton of body blows being delivered to the Imperium. I haven't seen much counterattacking. I've seen attempts to, gloves up, defend yourself, but there's not a lot of counterattacking going on inside actual Delve or Aquarius or Period Basis, or even if I don't know what's going on in Fountain. I think it's rather quiet up there. That's what it tells me there. I don't know if that answers the kind of question you were trying to help me with.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder if it's because like the rhetoric that I see, especially on Reddit when it comes to these kinds of things, is that goons almost feels like they're doing well, particularly right now, with how the Titan traps and all those kinds of things ended up going for them.
They were. That was like 2 weeks ago. I think the last week has totally changed. But yes, 2 weeks.
Okay, well,
ago.
I mean, I know this by paying attention to Reddit mostly. So I mean, I don't know anything about anything when it comes to this right this second. So, but my point is that it feels to me like this seems to be like they're attempting to remove potential collateral damage off the table, right? Like when you know that you're not going to beat your opponent's fleet, rather than going for strategically sound decisions like their Logi or their E-War, you may end up deciding to go after one of their blingy ships just so that way you can bleed them for as much money as possible. So by removing that off the table from a strategic or like a grander point of view, like they may see that as like we don't want to be dragged from place to place to place to place.
Normally you might be right, but we are way past that counting because the amount of money involved just supersedes any structure. There's nothing that's sacred right now. Like everything that's being
Right,
blown
but
up
having
is
this
just
up
kind
is
of
like leaving your
shrugged.
ass out. It's just another valid target for them to hit. So they're just removing a valid target.
Normally, you don't want to have targets that are valuable to be hit for prestige reasons, but we're way past that in this war because the numbers of things that are being destroyed are so great that another even faction fortizar worth 70 billion, let's say, just doesn't mean that much because keep stars are going down, titans are getting destroyed by the hundreds. Like we're just way past anything valuable. Even an AT ship destroyed or a faction titan destroyed is like just barely above the news these days in this area specifically.
I guess watch the hypernet then. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, as things get sold. All right, Billy points out something that's really good, and I'm glad he's here to do it. NOL was one of those key systems, so was FAT. FAT-GP. FAT-GP. CTAC-J. I think there's a memorial in CTAC-J to a big battle that happened there. IMK and VFK up in the north. Those are all like major systems. Stations. Or systems, actually. Those are system names that have stations in them that are really old and storied stations. FAT GP, didn't it get destroyed? I think that one got destroyed. That was very unceremonious. It got picked up. No, Head GP is what I'm thinking of. That's the one that got it destroyed. But that wasn't one of those original.
I'm not sure about that one, but
yeah, never mind. But
CTAC-J is destroyed. The place. I actually have I'm in the wrong Triglavian ship right now to show it off, but CTAC-J is the system that is on the red meat grinder skins that commemorates the siege of CTAC-J, where the
Stalingrad of New Eden.
Yep, the Russians defended against the Southern Coalition, which is there's a really good video called "The Siege of CTAC-J" on YouTube that you can check out.
Yeah. All right, so that's the big news. I don't expect everyone to get it, but basically it's like a piece of EVE history is kind of been smuggled out of its cradle, basically, and there it goes. So another function of the massive amount of destruction that's going on in Delve on both sides, but particularly structures that were there that were native to being there. There's a lot of history with structures. We'll do that a different day. We have a lot to cover today. All right. Ash, you had some stuff that you wanted to talk about today. Let's go.
Oh, yeah. I was going to catch you guys up a little bit on what we've been doing as the convocation. So the last couple of weeks has been trying to get structure back going. So we've been starting doing incursions. So we've successfully done incursions now for 1 or 2 days. Made some good money and starting out with the lower end stuff, but getting used to it because we've had a lot of people chomping on the bit for structured content, especially after trig stuff has become harder to do and more divisive. But at the same time,
why is it harder to do and why is it more divisive?
Well, it's harder to do now that Chapter 3 is over, and therefore the sites aren't spawning as reliably as if they were. And it's more divisive because now to be on one side, you can't be on the other side. So our alliance is kind of divided between those who have sided with Edencom and those who have sided with the Triglavians. And so getting people, like back in Invasions was in Chapter 1 and 2, it was like the thing that everybody could do, right? It was the cooperative thing that we all do. But now, like whichever side I choose to fly fleets for, I'm explicitly not flying fleets for the other side or whatever. Mm-hmm. Which complicates things. But one of the things I have actually been doing is that there ends up emerging this new side where you can opt to not shoot at Triglavians or Edencom and only shoot at rogue drones and drifters. So we've got some people that have been starting to do that. And actually this weekend I went flying with Dutch Gunner from Arataka Research Consortium, who are the scientists that figured out the blue sun thing before Invasions Chapter 3 even happened, that figured out what the Triglavians were coming after. So they're super smart dudes. Well, one of their main FCs from Chapter 2 and 3, he does a lot of drifter science, which is one of the things that they did in the past. And the drifter fleets are the best standings gaining in Poshfin. They're worth, actually I can look them up. But a single drifter can be worth more than any single thing in for standings in the game, and you only have to get one every 15 minutes to maximize your standings gains because of the way that standings works. So if you go into Poshvin and fight drifters, you can get standings, positive standings with both Triglavians and Edencom at the same time, really, really easily. So you can see
Is that
here.
advisable? Drifters are pretty
Absolutely.
tough, aren't they? Oh, okay.
Well, they are pretty tough if you know how to fight them, and that's but if you know how to fight them, then you can do it, and that's the whole point. Is that he's been sciencing the process of not only fighting drifters and sleepers as a fleet in Poshvin, but also how to deal with the Doomsday. So I was part of a science fleet where we dealt with we were dealing with Doomsday dodging, and I had to leave early because I had other work to do. But they've created a process that can successfully dodge the drifter doomsdays nearly every single time. And not all of the drifters have doomsdays. Actually, you can tell there's raider drifter battleships, and then there's strike drifter battleships or drifter strike battleships, and only the drifter strike battleships have the doomsdays. So you can go in there, you can kill the rogue drones, you can kill the other stuff, as long as the Polemarcos and the drifter strike battleship, as long as you do not pop their overshields or let somebody else pop it, then there won't be a doomsday at all. And if you handle it the way that they've been developing, you can actually do it either way. And so you can see here, I actually have positive Edencom standings. I have a positive 0.49, a positive 64 or 0464, and positive 02. And then at the same time, I have on the Triglavian side, positive 031, positive 041, and positive 013. So I'm gaining positive standings with both the Triglavians and the Drifters. And since you start out at basically 0 with both, if you haven't tanked your standings like I have, then all you have to do is do this once, and you are no longer have to worry about any of the Edencom or Triglavian or blah, 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 blah. You can go all throughout high sec without anything, any of the rats messing with you. You don't have to worry about the Rasnaborg or anything like that. So, yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on.
It's a big deal for haulers who get caught.
Absolutely.
Near yeah.
And I also discovered that inside of Poshvin, there are actually sites, much like the tier 0 and tier 1 sites, so minor conduits and stuff like that, but from before. But there are rogue drone and sleeper/drifter sites, as well as the Triglavian and Edencom sites. So there's a lot in there that we haven't quite figured out yet, but it's going to take people that are willing to take squads of guys in there to do this stuff and then bring out that information, which we do have some people doing it, but a lot of the people that are doing that stuff aren't sharing that information. So a lot of people think that Poshvin's a lot more dead than it is. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's clearly something to do there. People are repeatedly feeding golem fleets.
Yeah. But... Yeah, we saw that golem fleet. Basically, they run the World Arcs, the World Arc proving conduits, which is where you get the Zoria officer modules and guns.
Yeah, is that as lucrative as they say? I hear that it is. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, the World
Absolutely. Arcs. Well, so again, if you get one of those guns can be 5 to 10 billion ISK each. They're proper officer modules.
Yeah. Well, all right, cool. So that's what you guys are up to in your corporation, your group.
Yeah, well, that's kind of just some of the news of what I've got right now. I'm just hanging out. You can see Caldari Prime down below because I've been doing a lot of. I was actually just today doing some videotaping some footage of Caldari Prime because I'm doing a video series on the lore starting out with the Dark Age history of the empires of EVE Online. And as it turns out, there's not a lot of footage of like pre-space era of these histories. So while there is a lot of lore there, there's a lot of story there. There's not a lot of images. So I'm starting to get some B-roll footage.
Takes a while. Well, you build up a collection though, and then after a while.
Yeah, that's the strategy. That's the goal.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, let's talk about extended downtime because it seemed to disappear this week. Was it last week? I think it might have been.
Yeah, so last week they were going to do, this should be pretty simple. They're doing some database fixes or something. This is something that happens fairly frequently. It's just last week they were going to do an extended downtime. And then because at the last second they weren't able to deploy it, so they deployed it this week. In practice, what this means is that this could have been a reason why we got very little news this week. Maybe everything's on fire at CCP as they're trying to figure out, they're basically a week behind. But chances are it was just, they have these deployment rhythms. They have a regular deployment cycle on Tuesday. If things aren't ready to go, pull the trigger. It's sometimes better to just revert it and wait till the next window. The next window is this Tuesday. So whatever we're going to have last week is going to be put in this week. But from what we see in Hobo Leaks, I don't see anything like super pressing that's like that usually you see a patch over from Hobo Leaks. You could be a big surprise tomorrow, but chances are we'll just see at most we'll just see the stuff that from Hobo Leaks patched over.
Yeah, it's funny because I thought that some graphics had improved.
Or from Fissy, I should say.
Yeah, I thought some graphics had improved, or maybe I just hadn't noticed. But I looked at the map, and the map looked a little different to me, and so did the warp tunnel recently. It just looked like
on Sissy or in
on Tranquility.
Well, they have been doing a lot of little things. Depending on what you've noticed or how fast you've noticed it, they've changed the fonts. They've changed some of the shaders that they've used.
Yeah.
And they are working on the jump tunnel specifically on Singularity. I don't know whether or not that's going to come onto Tranquility this patch or not.
I thought they might have released some stuff early. You know how they sometimes when they have a really big change, they'll release it in a little at a time. And not really talk about it until it's in. But
they have. Well, that's the thing though. They've done a lot of graphics changes, pretty incredible graphics changes in the last several months. To the point where there's been several times where I've been like, did they do this? And like, I'll find out that I did it a month ago or, whatever. Another thing is that I know that they changed some of the in-game shaders and it didn't change for me on Tranquility until I changed my brightness. So like I actually was using old lighting shaders on Tranquility for like a month after that they deployed it.
Right. Very interesting. I wonder if I changed my graphic settings, because I have been doing that lately to be able to cover these battles that really lag up the system. So I've gone to like potato mode back to hardly any graphics to full quality graphics a few times, and I did notice like it almost feels more illustrated, like there's more penciling in of borders, so it doesn't feel. It feels a lot more like things have more distinction from one another, especially on the map. I can see the little connecting points on the map very clearly now, whereas before I couldn't. So I just kind of saw red dots wherever some information was, and then everything else just kind of disappeared. But now it looks a lot better. So hopefully all this work is just something that is coming.
Yeah, this is all things that they've like. This is a big effort of theirs, is to work on the foundational things, making sure that the game feels and looks right and good. I do want to address one of the questions. Somebody's bringing up the fact that there is the trig aggression bug, and while that does technically still exist, so theoretically speaking, that isn't a guaranteed survival. I actually know somebody that just this week had the trig aggress him when they weren't supposed to because of standings, and he had his ship reimbursed. So if it does happen, you can petition it.
That wasn't Hateless, was it? I think he lost a freighter. But anyway,
no. That's a separate issue. That was a different thing. What I'm talking about is
okay, because he lost it to a bug of some sort at a gate, and I don't know if that was
right.
Yeah, okay.
That was a different thing. That was I can't remember the exact details.
A little bit of a story there. We won't go into it. It might be controversial, so we'll wait for him to talk about it if he wants to. But something interesting happened to one of our mates.
I honestly haven't gotten a chance to look at like all of the details of the situation to be able to comment on it. But what I am commenting on is that there's somebody who had lost something as simple as like a vigil or something like that. The trigs aggressed when they absolutely shouldn't have, and so he did get it reimbursed. Maybe it was a hauler, but it wasn't a freighter.
Yeah. All right. Well, speaking of stuff that's coming, Hobo Leaks. What have you been seeing on Hobo Leaks? Now, let's explain what that is first, so that people know.
Yeah. So when I say Hobo Leaks, what I really mean is Singularity. When I say Singularity, what I mean is the test server. So, or Sissy, as some people
And
call
why
it.
do we care about it being a test server as opposed to the actual server that we play on?
So basically, things that come to our live server, Tranquility, generally speaking, go onto Sissy first. And so we'll see it ahead of time, and then it'll be patched over. So while there's tons of caveats, there's a lot we don't normally like to discuss Hopa Leaks as news. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because what we're discussing is something that is a known thing that Hopa Leaks just confirms something, and it was part of a confirmation of. So what's happening is that we now know that the next event that's happening is going to be the Valentine's Day event, which is going to be the Guardians Gala, and it will be focused on wormhole sites, wormhole space, just like last year. So there will be a 2 AU warp speed bonus for, I assume, everywhere, but it could just be in wormhole space. I actually no, it's probably going to be in only wormhole space. So 2 AU warp speed bonus and 90% drop rate for PvP loot in wormhole space during the course of Guardians Gala. And then there will be new combat and hacking sites available. There'll be one type of site in all known space, high sec, low sec, and null sec. And then there will be a secondary site that spawns only in null sec called the VIP site, which will have better loot and tougher challenges. And so there also appears to be the possibility of like a track reward system with multiple skins, because there's several new spirit skins and other skins that are associated with that season that are bind on pickup, have like strings attached to them that may imply that they are bind on pickup,
So
which kind of imply that they're
track of skins, sorry to interrupt you, is what we saw in the winter event.
right. As you do these things, because there's the language of the tasks and such, and so it appears as if we'll be kind of the same thing, where you'll do the tasks, you'll have the list of tasks, as you do them, you collect points. As you collect points, you go down a track. As you go down the track, you unlock various spirit skins.
So it's visible to you before you start. You can see the range of things you can win as long as you keep doing what they're asking you to do. That's right. The track that you're talking about. Okay, go ahead.
I assume as such, yeah. They have done like secret prizes for later things, but that's lame, and I hope not. But yeah, I mean, pretty simple. Like I said, we had this last year. It was pretty successful. I look forward to it. The favorite thing about this last year was that we actually, in our group, because we kind of got used to just doing this all the time, and so people knew that we were around, and so impromptu, we kind of became this like wreckage, like salvage service, where people who lost their ships, especially in wormhole space, when they're running these sites, because the harder sites are in fact harder, and so they would come to us and be like, "Hey, man, I have a wreck in a wormhole," and so we like band the team together that can run these sites, and we would go over and jump through the wormhole, because they're mostly have some sort of high sec or low sec connection. So you just go in, jump through. They've already scanned it out. And you run the site for them. They've usually made it to the end, so you run the site in like 2 minutes, get the prize, whatever it is off the MC, which can be like 2 to 300 million ISK worth of loot, and then they pay you like 50 million ISK because you've saved their Tengu wreck. It's awesome because there's 90% drop rate, so they've lost they see they know their blingy stuff is right there, so they'll come to they'll get somebody else to go help them,
and they know you're going to recover most of it, 90%.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Well, they can see in the kill mail that all of their stuff dropped.
Oh, I see.
Because you see on your kill mail what drops. All them X types greened out, and you're like,
I know you're wearing your Guardians Gala jacket today, right? It's Valentine's Day.
This jacket is tight, man. No, this is actually what's his name? Game Theory, the YouTube channel. He sold his jacket as a limited time thing, and I picked it up. Emma picked it up for me for Christmas.
Well, nice. See, Valentine's Day. But there is something about this Guardians Gala. I don't know why. It could be my birthday's right around this time, but I don't think that's it. I'm very nostalgic for the Guardian Gala because it does feel like almost like a Valentine's Day party. And it
is based on Valentine's Day, and it's based on the relationship, the union between the Serpentis Corporation and the Angel Cartel. So they have a long-standing agreement with another, and their two groups are almost intertwined with each other through what's known as the guardian angels, hence the name of the Guardian Gala.
Got it.
The Abyss PvP filament have an effect that relates to Serpentis hull bonuses?
Yeah, I think that there's a couple of just like the last couple of events, there's going to be probably abyssal PvP events that are keyed into this, and I believe you're right. It's a web strength bonus. Is part of
kind
the
of like how the
PvP
Halloween one had a web range bonus like Blood Raider ships.
Exactly. Yeah. So this is kind of this goes back to what I've been saying the last few times, which is that you can see that they've started to lock in this idea of like the calendar year, where there's all these different events throughout the year. Each event has a different, or kind of showcases a different pirate, a host pirate faction, usually a pirate. The Empire events are usually much more lame, like throwing snowballs or fireworks at each other. But the pirate events like Crimson Harvest, Guardians Gala, the Hunt. I don't remember where Sancho shows up. Either way, whatever.
Sancho is Christmas.
Oh yeah, Santa Claus does show up for Christmas for some reason, because they just have to shoehorn him in.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, the Garistus Bunny and Santa Claus. I mean,
well, I
the
think
Garister Bunny.
I really think for me, the nostalgia comes from, I think it might have been listening to Chocolate Rain describe the Soul Forge skins. I think they were for breast cancer. I think they were Soul Forge or something. There were pink skins or something. I forget what they're called.
There's the Heart Surge skins.
That's it. Heart Surge.
Yeah. Here, let me show you these. These are great. I love these skins.
These things are and they're very expensive, by the way.
Yeah, so these were for sale last year on the store, and so chances are they will just be available for sale for Plex again. The thing I love about this is that they also have a wonderful lore storyline behind them, actually. But they are this awesome pink, super metallic, reflective with white. I use it on my Vagabond that I use for these events, actually.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think this one, I think I actually looked at that, and that's the first time I said, wow, that is something that I may actually want. Like, that skin is so cool. It's for a good cause. I think it was charity or the money goes to breast cancer research.
If you're talking about the breast cancer one, that one was that was the Blossom.
The Blossom one, that one. Is that one
expensive
too?
That one's even more expensive because that was sold one time only, and that's it. Like, I don't have it.
Yeah, these that looked like.
Yes, this was sold for like 1 week in like 2016 or something like that for breast cancer awareness, and then never again. And this is probably one of the most like overinflated price skins because they're in high demand, so people continually want to get them. And they've never been reintroduced since they were first put in.
Right. Blossom, that was it. So that was about 2 years ago, wasn't it? Or was it 3?
Or was it Rosetta Dawn?
2016.
Oh my God, time is flying. It was a long time ago. So it was 4 years
Rosetta Dawn was a different one. No, Rosetta Dawn was
Eros Blossom. That's it. Eros Blossom. No, Blossom was the one I was thinking of.
Okay.
I don't know if that's what it looked like, but I remember.
Man, somebody's gonna have to correct me if it's Rosetta Dawn is the breast cancer one or not. I think it was Eros Blossom it was the breast cancer one. I'm reasonably sure.
Yeah.
Rosetta Dawn came later.
Yeah, I think I ended up donating to that. But anyway, there's something just that keeps, every time I hear about the Guardians Gala, I keep thinking about these Blossom skins and the Eros Blossom skins. It was also the first time that CCP put pink on a ship. And remember, that was a big no-no for a long time. I mean, the actual art director for EVE for a long time basically said, look, we have a certain color palette. It's dystopian. You will never see a pink ship in EVE Online. And that was it for a long, long time. But his name was Torfi Franz. But he went to work for Minecraft later on. And sure enough, a little bit later came out these pink skins, so it became a big deal. Now, I never wanted to see pink skins either, but I did see these and I thought, well, these are kind of lovely, and the fact that they're, they remind me of like cherry blossom trees. I think that's a very Japanese thing, if I'm not mistaken. But Eros Blossom, I thought
Well,
was
speaking of
cool.
that, so two things about that. First of all, what I'm showing off right now is the Aramanthine Mantle skins, and these are actually the skins that you do get from doing the event. So these are actually, because that's the Guardian Angels logo right there. That's why it's different than the normal Angels logo. But this is the skin that originally was associated with the Guardians Gala. So chances are these Aramanthine mantles and perhaps some new ones will be introduced for that. But in addition to that, it's funny that you're mentioning the blossoms, because we just finished the other festival, the Japanese release, and they came out with those Zakodo.
Uh-huh.
Hold on, let me look it up.
Those are kind of colorful, yeah. That's a pretty. And I think when the
Yeah.
sun hits them, they turn like cyan. I think the blue turns to cyan if the sun hits at the right angle. See?
Yeah, these things have it all. They have particle effects. They have pink flowers. They have shininess. They're pretty good.
Try to get you not to be pixelated.
And the key about these things, again, so if you do like these things, now's a good time to get them, because they just got introduced, and they were to celebrate the release of the Japanese client. So chances are these aren't going to be, they're not going to increase they're not going to re-release them. So they're only going to increase in rarity over time.
Oh, they have a little holographic work on them too at the top there, it looks like.
Yep, they have a little particle effect thing.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, when they came out with some really cool face paints, I think it was part of the Japanese launch too. They look like a kabuki theater almost.
Yep, they've been doing a lot of stuff. Actually, they introduced those into the game almost a year ago, probably a year ago. Maybe before that. I remember for sure seeing them around the time as the Jita 4.4 reopening kind of buzz.
Yeah.
So they had been kind of kicking around for a little while, but releasing them for the Japanese release was a really good idea, I'd say.
Yeah. Anyway, some good stuff. But again, every time you mention Guardians Gala, Ash, it just takes me right back to those Blossom skins, and I don't know why they have such an appeal, but they do. And I've always wanted to get involved in Guardian Gala, and I don't even know what it is. Like, I don't even know how easy or hard it is to get involved.
Well, I expect it to be roughly the same as we've seen before, which is going to be like soloable with a decent tier 1 battlecruiser / battleship, but really strongly prefer like a group of maybe 3 battlecruisers or even like maybe cruisers, up to 5 or so people, because by having more people, you not only cut through things faster, but the enemy will spread aggro, which ends up making tanking it easier, assuming that you don't have like a dedicated logi setup, which you shouldn't. So, like I did it in a Vagabond, but like as long as what we like to do is we get 2 or 3 dudes that are all in ships that could probably solo them okay themselves, but when you get 2 or 3 of them, then you just definitely smash through these things. And then we just roam around high sec or low sec or wherever we're going and run the sites. And then when we find a wormhole, we just pop in there and see if there's any VIP sites in there and run them. Make tons of money.
Yeah. Sorry about my connection. For some reason, you're pixelated pretty hard sometimes, but that's okay. All right, thanks. So that is what we saw on Hobo Leaks, or the server.
That's what's coming up from Sissy, yeah.
Yeah. What else you got? Is this CCP Convict comment about quadrants, right? People want to know, where are we? Because it's already January. January's over. Now we're in February, and where are the announcements on what the quadrant is?
So basically, December is a non-development month. It's a non-anything month, right? Even without all of the concerns that we've been having in the real world.
Because of vacation.
There's holidays. Yeah, because of vacations, because just everybody's winding down for the year, whatever. So as a result, there's not that much that comes out on January most of the time. If you remember last year when the quadrants were first announced, the first quadrant was basically just the first month of the first quadrant was more or less just the announcement of quadrants itself, plus its video. And then also we had the Dragonar Blitz, which was happening because at the time CCP was explicitly iterating very aggressively on the drone AI because they're trying to wrap up all the stuff for invasions, right? So they had this thing ready to go. This event was built by the events team and was ready to go and kind of filled in that month. But content-wise, January was pretty lax. This year, obviously, they didn't even have like the video to set up yet. So it is what it is. I'm not happy about it, but at least CCP Convict clarified the fact that they haven't announced the new theme yet. They are planning on staying in quadrants. I don't know if that means that they're going to have a 2-month quadrant and then 3-month quadrants, but I think that they might just leave this with like January out of phase and then just kind of go for 3-month bans after that. I super hope that they really go back, like they just call January a wash and go with 2 months so that way it stays in actual quadrants. It'd be weird if you like over the years our quadrants march slowly through the year as like each set of 4 quadrants is actually a year and 1
Then
month.
have a leap quadrant.
That wouldn't work because January still becomes the quiet month. So I don't know. I hope that CCP like clarifies or like comes out with the thing and has the first quadrant be only 2 months as it were. But we'll see how they navigate this one.
Yeah. All right. Well, there's a lot to look forward to. I've been hearing that some big stuff coming and probably coming sooner than we think. I don't know at all what that's in relationship to, but definitely there's going to be some interesting stuff happening this year and probably in the first 6 months of this year.
Yeah. We are getting the new Fleet Finder tool, which is more or less a reskin of the old Fleet Finder tool. And
it's an additional.
We are also going to be getting the new.
We should just say that it's an additional skin. So everything that was there before is still there for fleet commanders that were used to working a certain way. In fact, even if you save your templates, you can pick those. Everything stays the same. But this is just an additional place to find a group to fly with if you use the agency, which is a much more visible place.
It's a really solid point. Let's hope that they stick with that. But also, there is now the new tutorials videos. Right now, we only have the exploration tutorial videos, but we'll see if they are going to be like expanding on that. And those are also front and center in the agency. So,
yeah. So Rizo makes a point here. You can make public fleets with the new Fleet Finder.
Yep. Well, but so, yeah.
Well, they're easier to find, that's for sure, because now there's a filter so you can find those public fleets.
You can also specify that your fleet is newbie friendly in a way that I don't think you could in the old system.
Yeah.
The public fleet is actually just fleet by standings, but it'll be interesting to see if fleet by standings using the old system functions as a public fleet. Like if I say fleet by standings need to be at least neutral, if that would work as a public fleet created by the public fleet system. I haven't experimented with that piece of it yet.
Yeah, well, you need a fleet to experiment with on this test server in order to figure that stuff out.
Yeah, I mean, you can log on a couple of characters and play around and see what happens.
Yeah. Right. So that's what we know is coming, but there's stuff that's probably bigger and it's going to have wide-ranging effects, not just UI changes. There's also the quality.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They've been super coy about that stuff though. Like it's not on Sissy. They're not like it's obvious that they are working on stuff. And this is one of the things that they do is like that kind of stuff doesn't go on Sissy because unless there is something that needs to be tested about it or, whatever, then they would rather it, like that comes out through PR, right? That doesn't happen just because Sissy got patched today. That happens because they're ready to put out the blog or do the announcement or do the whatever. So I hope that means that within the next week or two, we will get a new or day or two, we'll get a new trailer, or at least a new quadrant and some guidance. But I hope that the fleet finder tool is going to be kind of a clue that we're going to see more focus on small gang and the starting of fleets. So focus on things like faction warfare or other things where like event sites and stuff like that, or even the like exploration sites like DD combat sites in LoSec and stuff like that. Like maybe doing an extra polish on those to make it so that there's something for these fleets to go do would be something to focus on for a quadrant.
Oh, but do you think they will coordinate that with the gala? So you do NPC
Well, I mean,
stuff?
in a way that is the gala is something to use the fleet finder for, right?
Yeah.
Like the gala is an example of that. It could potentially fall into.
Right.
And I think that these event sites are really critical. I've talked to a lot of people that are used to like the old emerging conduits or other systems that don't like the idea that like events are constantly changing, but all of them are roughly the same power level. T2 cruiser, T1 battle cruiser level difficulty, small team preferred, and just little bits about the damage, like the difficulty, or like the tank or the damage that you do is, or what you E-war you resist for is what you change up per event site, and obviously you change where you go to, and et cetera, et cetera. But the key here is that one of the biggest problems with emerging conduits was that it ended up becoming too well known and too well perfected and eventually botted. So these event sites give you just enough time to tackle, chew on, profit from, maximize, exploit, and triumph over these sites, and then they're gone again. And then you got to work on the next one. And as we have this year on theme, we'll actually have hopefully we'll actually develop somewhat of an answer. So it's like, I imagine, given the fact that they actually don't have, I don't see any. There's only the only new rats I see authored are the new MCs. So what that means is that these sites will probably be roughly the same difficulty as before. So chances are you'll be able to go back to any of the strategies from the Guardians Gala from last year, and those will apply to this year, which hopefully will help our onboarding process as a community, and we can get people to start diving into these event sites.
Yeah, you don't. I mean, you want to preserve some knowledge so people can transfer it, because that's very rewarding for advanced players to be able to teach new players how to do a thing. It gives them a chance to step up and be a leader. So I think
and
way to do it.
there's a lot of people that just aren't going to do it until someone's able to explain to them how they're going to do it successfully.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. I think one of the major problems, and I hope they're surfacing this material better than they were in the past, but going out and exploring for it, second nature to a lot of players, but also kind of a wall for some players that weren't that good at scanning things down or probing or whatever. So I think the winter it wasn't solstice, the winter nexus, with a direct entry mechanic was probably pretty successful. I think they should repeat that. Maybe they will.
Oh yeah, the filaments were great. Like,
yeah,
maybe
I hope
too
they
easy,
find.
but
I hope they find other ways to make other events easy to get to.
well, so filaments were, first of all, filaments are the Yule events like thing. Like that's when Yule events, that's when filaments were first introduced into the game. So to have that be a major focus of that event is pretty thematically
so
resonant.
they were born in that. Okay.
Right, exactly. So,
Yeah.
but in this case, the event sites are everywhere. So rather than having to go to the storms, they'll be in all. They could be potentially in any system, and also, any system can have a wormhole connection. So you could always be one jump away from wormhole space with a VIP site. So the way that we dealt with this last year is we just roam around with the team, and we run the high-sec sites. And as we're doing that, we're also probing things down. I imagine since there's hacking opportunities, the hacker will be doing that. And if they find any wormholes, then they go into the wormholes, scan those down, or and find if there's any sites, and then you go in there and run those too.
Yeah.
All good fun.
Okay. We got to wrap up soon. Is there anything else that you wanted to cover?
The mixed dimension stuff.
Well,
Nope,
Ashtarothi first, and then we'll talk about.
Oh, yeah, no, that's pretty much it.
Okay.
So it's time for you to show off your statue, since
That's
you didn't
right.
want to do it earlier.
Okay, yeah. So we forgot to talk about that, but what these are 3D printed models, I think. And here is their stand. I'll just put this close, and here is, like, you can see it's about 5 inches, I think.
So that's the 5 inches one, which is one of the more expensive ones on the store. That the Tristan comes in 3, 4, and 5 inch version.
They're
I was actually
detailed.
I was looking to getting one of those today, but seeing how they sit on the stand, I don't know. I might need to get like a glass case to keep the cats away.
Yeah, and also the dust, because it will collect on the actual stand. I also have this little version here. I'm not a great big collector of these things. These things just arrived. I think I may have won a contest or something that I forgot about. But after Eve Vegas, a few months later, these things arrived.
So that's the 3 inch one.
Yeah, this
probably
is the smaller one. You can see.
Yeah, so these are some of the original ones, and then the ones that just came out are the 4 battleships.
Yeah, I would really want a rattlesnake, but I guess a scorpion will do.
Yes, you're the one that was wanting the rattlesnake. That's right.
Sudacon says, "I want." I think there are a lot of people that like these, so I hope there's great demand for them. This seems to be something that a lot of people called for all the time. Was these kinds of ships? I remember early on they had a Rifter, and of course the Megathron. Megathron was kind of sizable. My friend that worked at Blizzard, that was he's like a big guy at Blizzard. I think he was, well, I won't say what he did, but producer level guy, and he's sitting in his office, and you walk in and the very first thing you see is this giant Megathron sitting there. I thought that was pretty fun.
So right now on the Mixed Dimensions website, they have Rifter, Hyperion, Cinnable, Tristan, Magnate, Dramiel, Armageddon, Scorpion, Rifter, Naga, Typhoon, Tornado, Talos, Macarial, Condor, and Oracle. And I gotta say, one of the sleepers that I found was the Macarial is, compared to the others, pretty cheap. Like I said, the Tristan is, I think, $40 for the 3 inch, and then $125 for the 5 inch, which is a lot. So don't stop dropping it, is what I'm trying to say. But the Macarial is only $65 for a 6 inch little dude.
That's a nice looking ship too. We just saw it earlier.
Yes, I'm a big fan of it.
Yeah. Can we link the site in chat? I believe.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and put it in chat here, and we'll try to put it into the show notes later on. I remember the Oracle looked white rather than gold, I think. Yeah. They had these at Eve Fan Fests, and that was a couple years ago. So
they had them at Vegas the last time we were there. Yep.
Right.
They had and the Magnate does look, it is one of the original ones, and you can see it does kind of look a little bit almost cell shaded, with the fact that the yellow doesn't quite look right with the very white. The Armageddon does look a little bit better.
Yeah. Let's real quick. We have to go so that we can transfer you over to a different show, but we'll bring these up just before.
Gaimo says that his daughter got him the Macarial for Christmas. It looks great on his desk. Awesome. Yeah, I've heard good things from everybody who's gotten them.
Nice daughter. There they are. Those do look good. Is that a Hyperion? Yeah, Hyperion's such a great ship. Such an underrated design. That is a beautiful ship. Never quite found its place in Eve, I don't think.
I was just talking to Emma about this. She said that was the very first ship that she ever really wanted. She was she saw it undock one day when she was in her very early, and she's like, "Oh my God, 4 engines!"
It's majestic. That is. It looks to me like a dagger. Oh, that looks like yeah. Well, anyway, there they are. Ashtarothi, thanks as always. Pleasure having you on. Before we take off, Gregorian, did you have something that you wanted to bring up, or did we finish? I said Gregorian just totally disappears on me all the time. Where'd you go? You're around here somewhere. Gregorian? All right. Assume he walked away. Okay, Ash, thank you for coming and showing us a lot of that great stuff on screen. I love your setup. We'll have to we're gonna have to up our game to keep up with you.
Just doing what I can for the show.
I know what you mean. Yeah, Gregorian logged off.
Actually, that somehow reminded me. I just I did my sub for the day, or for the month rather, and so now I was checking out all of the new Talking in Stations emotes. So you've got the Goon Swarm one, you've got Brave, you've got Fraternity, you've got Horde.
Let's get one of you
Test.
up there.
You guys not hear me now?
In your red
oh
jacket.
yeah, we can hear you now.
I was having technical difficulties. I was just wanting to say I really like these models. Like the Oracle is one of my favorite ships as well. Like the attack battle cruisers besides the Tornado, I think all look really good.
Yeah.
But if I was to get some of these models when I can afford them, I would definitely get the Scorpion, the Oracle, and probably the Magnate to go.
Cool.
Probably keep them in with my Warhammer collection because that's the kind of it's stored, has similar storage concerns.
Yeah, exactly.
And is actually the Warhammer stuff is actually cheaper per model.
That's true.
Yeah.
And you didn't have to paint them.
I agree with
If
Skirt
you
on
do
here.
paint them, you have to remember that 2 thin coats are always better than 1 thick coat.
And Skirdon's comment here: only ships worth a damn are built on Minmatar shipyards.
Well, I think a lot of my favorite Amar ships are built by Minmatar.
Wow.
So
on that note, have a good night, everybody.
Yeah, good night. We'll see you. Stay tuned. We're going to send you over to Trash Talk Tuesday. Have some fun over there. We'll see you tomorrow from Talking in Stations.